Welcome to The Unspoken Truth. I'm your host, Rob Russ.
And live from Minnesota, I'm Edward R. Anderson. Hey, Robbie.
Hey, Ed, how we doing today, mate? New week, new news, new things happening. What's going on?
Yeah, it looks like it's shaping up to be a really busy week. So I hope you had a nice, long, restful weekend, because this week might be a brutal one for us.
Absolutely, I did. I was flying solo this weekend. My partner was away. She was down in the Southern Highlands at a wedding, working. So I was lucky to get some downtime. Got lots of work in, actually, which was really good. And I was all finished up by about midday on Saturday. So I had a couple of days, or a day and a half off, which was really good. So, ladies and gentlemen,
isn't it just how amazing how your productivity goes up when your sweetheart's not around?
No. You're not distracted, see?
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're not distracted on a Saturday morning by someone saying, let's go for a coffee. Let's go to the cafe. Let's do this. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Later.
What is it about girlfriends and wives? They see an empty space in the calendar, and they've got to fill it up with stuff. Why can't they just leave it blank?
Good question. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time here, welcome. It's great to have you here. Ed and I like to have a look behind the stories in the mainstream narrative, and boy, we got a doozy here for you today. I think I must be saying that every other day, but these are some big stories, and this looks to me like maybe one of the biggest stories in human history, which is getting virtually no attention for some reason or another. I don't really know why. So you can see the graphic there on the screen. Aliens in Congress this week. Yes, absolutely. There's going to be a whole lot of documents presented this week, and there's going to be a big discussion around aliens and the US Congress this week. More whistleblowers coming forward? Not sure. Why is this even a secret? And what does it mean for humanity? Let's get started, folks. All right, Ed, what's going on, man? What's the update? What's the latest with the aliens? It kind of fell off my radar a little bit. Stephen Greer came out with his Disclosure 2.0 a couple of months ago, and not really very much came out of that. And it wasn't until we had David Gresh come out recently saying that he was a high-level whistleblower. But again, it was all this guy told me about this thing that was happening over there type information. It's all third-hand information. Everybody wants to see the video of the aliens and the spaceship, and we want to know how anti-gravity works, but we're just not getting there, are we?
Well, this is it, right? This is. I mean, you would think this would be the story to end all stories, right? And it would be wall-to-wall alien. And and it was just not even 2 months ago, it was last month, that we had the big reveal that was finally going to answer the question about whether or not we're alone in the universe. We're finally going to get it. And it was all a big build-up, and then nothing. A big
now
fail.
You know we're not alone in the universe. How do you feel? The same.
The same.
So what?
You wonder if decades of these sci-fi movies and Hollywood, whether maybe it's a big shoulder shrug now. So
we already knew
wonder.
That.
Or more importantly, maybe people just are not buying it. People are just not believing it. I think that's what it is. I think if there was actual credible proof, our society would be falling apart at the seams as we're talking. And
oh, really? Do you really think
yeah,
that?
I do. Load up on your freaking gold and silver, my friends. If this turns out to be real, your gold and silver is going to be worth a lot of money real fast.
I'm not sure. I might push back on that a little bit and say that I think you're right. That would happen if it affected you as an individual. But because it's an existential question, are we alone in the universe? And suddenly you discover that we're not, and you go, well, there are other intelligent life forms that are much more advanced than us. But if it doesn't affect you, people are like, okay, cool, I got to go to work. I got to be there at 8 o'clock. What do you want me to do about it? There's literally nothing you can do. But if all of a sudden it started to affect us, then yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I suppose it'd all be about context, right? What context are we learning about these aliens? Are these aliens obviously hostile? Do they have technology that could they wipe us out like flies if they so chose? Or are these really nice people, and they've got a solution to all of our problems, and they want to help, and they're very gregarious and friendly, and so it all depends on the context in which we find out that we're not alone, right?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Well, you've got a little report for us, so let's play that and let's have a discussion about that so we don't stamp on the report.
Okay, so I like a good alien story as much as the next guy, but this week it's put up or shut up.
In the air, in outer space, and even underwater.
Okay, so there can be absolutely no doubt that the existence of aliens, whether they come from outer space or another dimension, would be the biggest story of mankind. You would see no other news in the headline. Okay, this would be the biggest story that has ever been told. So there was a really big publicity stunt last month where there was supposed to be a really big conference held at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where they'd be showing never before seen evidence, proof of the existence of UFOs and UAPs and creatures from other dimensions. Well, that event turned out to be a really big nothing burger. But they have another shot this week. So this week in Congress is holding hearings where they're going to have some more whistleblowers giving their testimony, their experiences with UFOs and aliens. Because apparently, for decades, the industrial military complex has been hiding the existence of these UFOs and UAPs and studying this alien technology and putting it to work. And again, apparently, there are huge underground installations, and there is apparently a massive parallel economy. And they are sitting on technologies that will change the way we live forever. Technologies like free energy. And then just a few days ago, our friends at Redacted interviewed a guy with a brand new video showing an interrogation of an alien. And I got to tell you, it feels like Clayton kind of stepped in this one. Normally, I love Redacted. They do a really good job. But this is one area where I think they might have a little bit of egg on their face. So this is an apparent video of an interrogation of an alien.
I think we probably we've let our audience wait long enough, but I absolutely wanted to provide the deep context on this film. Let's play the film. So here it is. This is, again, it's silence. There's no audio on this. What are we looking at here as we play this film? What are we seeing on our screen, John?
This is a film shot April of 1991, a thought projection interview of a other gray, designated an other gray, an extraterrestrial biological entity, diploids.
And apparently there's no sound. And apparently they had empaths there to read its mind. And of course, they had to keep the lights down because the creature's eyes are so big that it's very sensitive to light. And, you know, I got to tell you, come on, guys. Is this the best you can do? This is all we ever get. We always get grainy footage or shaky footage. We can never get a clear image.
Oh my gosh, dude. Wow. Look at it fly.
And we've never seen any actual proof. Again, I like a good conspiracy theory, but at some point, you have to wonder whether all of these efforts is just one big false flag operation. Now, the primary reason why I am skeptical is because the idea that the government can keep this kind of a secret for so many decades, an operation that is so massive that involves millions of people, is a little bit unbelievable.
Retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles.
One whistleblower is so convinced, he says the government has pieces of alien spacecraft under lock and key.
Yeah, they're sophisticatedly engineered, certainly not by humans.
Now, I'm willing to be open-minded, but at some point, you have to put up or shut up. Show me some actual wreckage. Take us on a tour of one of these massive underground facilities with all of this alien technology. If you're going to do it, this is the week to get it done. There's a big congressional hearing about all of this, and Congress could, if they wanted to, force these countries that are beneficiaries of these technologies to show us what they got. But I have to tell you that this kind of conspiracy, if it turns out to be true, the power and influence needed to keep it so secret for so long is very powerful. And little peon congressmen and senators are probably not going to get in their way. They'll swat them away like flies. If anything, I would have to assume that these powers that be are controlling the release of information for their own personal agenda. And again, as much as I would like a really good alien story, as much as the next guy, circumstantial evidence is not going to cut it anymore. So let's see what comes out of this week's congressional testimonies. Again, I'm expecting it to be a nothing burger. But if there is some earth-shaking news, if there is a piece of evidence that changes my mind, I will do another video on it. I'm willing to be turned around. Until then, I don't believe it. How about you guys? Do you believe in aliens? Let me know in the comment section below. Ed Anderson, live and skeptical in Minnesota, signing out.
Oh, you ruined it. You ruined all the fun with your cynicism and your skepticism. Come on, man.
Hey, I gave you lots of material, man. You can build upon that. So, am I a alien denier now? Is that the new term?
Like a climate change denier and a flu denier?
A flat earther? Am I?
Oh, God. The world is gone, man. Imagine if you could go back like 10 years ago and say this was all going to happen. You'd be like, what? That's not in this universe that's happening. It's an alternative reality, some parallel reality. It's crazy.
Well, you are a believer, right?
Yeah, I'm a believer. I think look, I don't think we're alone in the universe. There's no question about that. I always look at it and think, well, why would they do something like that? Why would they hide it away? What have they got? And there's always this argument, I've spent a lot of time looking at this and wasted probably a percentage of my life. I don't even know if it's real or not, but it's interesting, right? It's a sci-fi story in real life. And who is it that has the technology? Some alternative government, some alternative, I don't know who has it, right? But what do they stand to gain from keeping it all? Well, if the people that are in charge actually have the technology so we can't get rid of fossil fuels and they own fossil fuels, that's how they remain in charge. Because if all of a sudden it's free energy for everybody and it's anti-gravity technology for everybody and we can solve all of the world's problems with this technology from somewhere else, then the people that are currently in charge are no longer going to be in charge. So that's why it is such a big thing. And, I was watching some Alex Jones stuff yesterday about the UN's plan and how they're sexualizing children and what they're trying to do. Is just some really shocking, alarming stuff coming out of the UN. And they're the people that are systematically destroying our society. They're the people that the UN, the WHO, and the WEF, they're systematically destroying our society by creating so much division, and they're sowing so much discourse in our society that a real story like this about aliens, if that was a real video that guy actually had, is just being swept under the carpet because people are just too worried about the other things that are going on in their lives that are just not important. And then on top of all of that, you have cost of living, you have interest rates, and you have people suffering financially. It's very hard for people to divide their attention into something, into a story like this that might be real.
Well, see, this would be my theory that this little false flag operation could be their way of garnering control. We saw what happened a few years ago with that worldwide flu when they gave the world something to focus on. That everyone set their differences aside for the sake of solving an existential problem. It turned out to be fake, but that doesn't matter. The point was proven that if you give the people something bigger to worry about, then they will forget all the other little nuisances like putting food on the table or
you're 100% right, Ed,
or their personal freedoms, right? So maybe the idea of potentially hostile aliens, that might give people something really big to worry about, so they won't mind giving up 50% more of the paycheck so that we can build an adequate defense against these people. They won't mind spending another couple of years in lockdown. They won't mind giving up the freedoms in order to to take on a larger threat. So if I were in their shoes, if I had the white furry cat and I was stroking it in my lap and I had to think about a plan, that's the way I think about going to do it. We got to come up with an enemy that's bigger than they've ever seen before. And so that's why I think this is going on right now. That's why I think this is being leaked out and this is being presented as a false flag operation.
Well, there's historical precedent, right? So there's from the last couple of years, and you're so right, because why did Australia react the same way as England, the same way as Italy, the same way as China? Why did all countries react to it the same way? There's a book on the shelf there behind me, one of my favorite books. It's pretty hard going because it's a very it's a very heavily referenced document, but it's called No Better Enemy. And it's about how the Lend-Lease program in World War II, how we helped the Soviets in the World War II, because they were getting all of their supplies from the Germans, because the Germans said that they were never going to attack them. Then all of a sudden they attacked them, and we said, well, don't worry about the Germans, we'll give you everything. And that's how we supplied the Soviet war machine, which actually ended up rolling up the Germans through Europe. And eventually that ended up biting us really hard. But they recognized in the process of doing that, in the process of funding the Soviets, they became a really good enemy. And then our side got all the money. And that's when Eisenhower came out and said, you've got to be careful of this military industrial complex, because they're the ones that are going to take over. And that was the genesis of it during his time in the 1950s after World War II. It's pretty interesting. I've got a link I want to share with the audience. I'll put the link down below so you can read it yourself. But I sent this to you last week. Let me just grab my screen. I'll share that with everybody. So this came from UpMax, and I saw this in a Twitter feed. Aliens are here. Biden met them. They're not friendly. What a headline, right? So, of course, I read it. And so this is from the 14th of July. So if you have a look, it's pretty long-winded, and it's long going. There's a couple of parts to it. So when you look at the website, and I'll put the link directly here to it, but if you come back to the homepage, you'll see there's like a part 2 that's in there as well. But you'll start reading it, and you'll see that there is quite a bit of credibility there on the front end of it. It seems like it's a good article, but as you go down further, it talks about how these aliens, which are called Genzai, G-A-N-Z-A-I. So the Genzai are here, and they're here to do something with planet Earth, and they see us as flies. We're just an annoyance, just to be swept away. And they're not allowed to interfere with us, so they're not allowed to give us technology. They're not allowed to help us in any way. But what they are allowed to do is to stop anything that happens to do with nuclear war. So one of the things that they don't like, and this is one of the hypotheses around the extraterrestrial phenomenon, so to speak, is that they all started to appear once we started to get nuclear technology and around the end of World War II. And they were Foo Fighters sighted in Europe, and then UAP or UFOs back in the day over all of the military bases, etc. And so if we end up in a nuclear exchange, apparently every single one of us will cease to exist. So the aliens are here, they've met Biden, and they're not friendly. And I read the story and I go, it looks pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Maybe, yeah, I could see how you'd think that. Feels like an opinion piece. But down further in the article, it talks about why they're not friendly, and it talks about how 2 US F-15s engaged with these alien spacecraft, or these UAPs. They don't know what they were. And there's the radio recording and the video that this journalist has seen. So he doesn't have the video himself, but so here's where it's like sketchy, right? Yeah. So he's seen it, and he didn't record it, so he's writing it down from his memory of what he actually saw. So I read that, and so this is in the second part 2 of the article. So you probably don't have to read it because I'm telling you the whole story here. But what they say is 2 F-15s launched from an aircraft carrier. And I'm like, F-15s don't go on aircraft carriers. That's the first thing. But he just brushes that aside. Maybe they're just testing them on an aircraft carrier. Well, if you look at an F-15's landing gear, it's just dead straight. Yeah, just straight, like 2 sticks. And if you look at an F-18's landing gear, it's straight and it's kind of bent, and it's designed to hit the ground at 700 feet per minute. So a Hornet can land on an aircraft carrier, and a Hornet doesn't flare when it lands. It doesn't come in at an angle and then round out and then flare and gently touch down. And the reason it doesn't do that is because it's got to catch the wire, it's got to trap, and in order to do that, it has to kind of still be descending. And that's the art form in landing on an aircraft carrier, right, is to be able to time it at exactly the right point to grab the 3-wire. Anyway, we just forget about all of that difficult stuff. And we also forget about the fact that there's no launch bar on an F-15 to actually hook up to the catapult. But there's plenty of aircraft in the world that can take off from an aircraft carrier without a catapult, but they need a ski jump. And so no American aircraft carriers have ski jumps. It just doesn't make sense. So even if you were on a marine carrier like USS America or something like that, that does have a ski jump, how are you going to get the F-15 onto that ship? The only way you'd get it onto it is with a crane when you're alongside. But then how do you get the F-15 alongside to get it onto the crane? Well, maybe you got to take its wings off and put it on a truck and then put it back together. And well, maybe. So we're just kind of brushing over all of the, how this actually happened. And then it said that these 2 aircraft flying a sortie off an aircraft carrier, which is all bullshit. And then they engage with these alien spacecraft, and one of them gets zapped by a green laser and just gets turned to ash. And the other one turns tail and runs away. But it turns tail and runs away, but where does it actually go? Back to the carrier? Alongside somewhere? Back to an airbase? I don't know. We just kind of skipped over all of that detail. So to your point, Ed, like, shut up and put up. If you're going to come out and make claims like that, if you're going to do that, you've got to show me the references. You've got to show me the videos. You've got to show me the actual proof. Show me an interview with somebody. You can't just go and say, yeah, I met with a guy and, he showed me this video. I was watching that. I'll round out my thought here with something a bit funny. So yesterday in the gym, I really just didn't feel like working out, but I was there, and I looked over when I walked in, and I was like, somebody's on. Normally I do like a 10 or a 15-minute warm up on the exercise bike, but all the exercise bikes were broken. I was like, I have to warm up. I'm a bit older. If I don't do something like to warm up, to get my heart pumping, and I pick up some weights, I'm going to injure myself, right? So I go over to the rowing machine. I put some music in my ears. I start rowing on the rowing machine. I'm like, fuck, it just didn't feel like it, right? And I think what was wrong was the music in my ears was just annoying me. So I kind of did my warm up, and then I opened up YouTube in my phone as I was walking over to where the weights were, and I pressed play on that redacted video that you showed. And I pressed play, and I'm like looking around and seeing if anybody's like watching me watch this video. I honestly felt like I was like, are people going to see what I'm watching? They're like, dude, what on earth are you watching? Like, and one of my mates was in the gym, and the phone was on the drink holder of one of the machines I was using, and the video was playing. And he walked up behind me. So I'd finished my set. I stood up, and he walked up behind me, and he goes, "What are you watching?" And I pressed, I had my headphones in, right? And I pressed stop, and I said, "Oh, nothing, man, just the news, yeah." And he looked at me and goes, "Oh," and he just brushed it aside and then said hello, and then and did it.
Oh, he saw the video. He saw the alien video.
Yeah, it's the alien like coughing, like
yeah.
It's like, what is that? Oh, nothing, man. It's just the news. Like, and it was funny how he just went, "Oh, okay, no worries." But you're right. It's time to shut up or put up. Enough's enough. Like, I've spent enough of my life looking at all of this. When is it actually ever going to come and help normal people like you and me, Ed? I don't know if it is, man.
At this point, look, the older you get, the more skeptical you become about stuff because you've seen so much, So I'm harder to convince than a 20-year-old. I'm not as gullible, or I'm not calling you gullible or naive, but at this point, it's like, my patience is running thin, man. Look, I'm going to be dead in 15 minutes, so I'll cut to the chase, will you? Let's get to it. So I don't have any patience. I never really what I call suffered fools. Listen, man, if someone's spouting what I think is stupid or stuff that can't be backed up, I tend not to humor them for very long. I'll just
call it out.
I'll either call it out or I'll just turn my back because they're not worth my time. And these days we have so many other things to worry about. I don't need to spend time on this. Now it was very interesting last month because some people came forward that I never knew about Dr. Greer before, right? And he has a pretty impressive presence. When he talks, he's a very credible person. He always backs up the statements with, "Yeah, I sat with this person, and I sat with that person," and he knows the names. These are impressive names, right? So you wouldn't just say, "Yeah, I met with General so and so." You wouldn't be that specific unless you weren't worried about General so and so saying, "No, that never happened." So he throws out a lot of really important names, really important dates, and he just cuts a very impressive and credible figure. So when he came out, that Grummish guy, he doesn't really impress me a lot, but
well, the reason it doesn't impress me, they seem credible, right? So Stephen Greer is credible. That Dave Gresh guy is credible as well, and all the other people that came out, Louis Alessandro seems credible as well. Although Stephen Greer doesn't like that guy, says he's a deep state plant. But you look at it all and you think, well, it all sounds credible, it all sounds real, but everybody just says that, yeah, I met with this guy and he told me about this, and I know that this is happening here because this guy gave me the evidence there. And Stephen Greer kind of started to rub me the wrong way, where he kept saying, "Oh, we've got 200 people that have come forward and they've got amnesty and they're going to say what they're going to say and they won't They won't get put in jail because the documents that they signed were under duress. It's all this bullshit going on. It's like, come on, man. But, you know, he put together I guess you call it a documentary, and the Stephen Greer one, the latest one, it's called The Lost Century. And that's what he calls this century, right? Because we have the alien tech. We mastered anti-gravity in the 1950s, and we've got access to unlimited free energy already, but the powers that be have it all under control, and the powers that be own oil, and that's the reason why it's never going away, and that's the reason why all this climate change stuff will never go away, and it's just a whole beat up, is because as soon as they move to some other version of fuel, then the world as you know it will completely change. And that's why he calls it the lost century. But in that documentary, he details all of the things that have happened in the last 50 or 60 years, where somebody has created a water-powered car, and you know, he shows the footage of it, and he talks about all these people that have created these alternative energy sources that have suddenly disappeared or been silenced, or their technology was stolen or lost. And they've created I guess like a laboratory in America where you can bring all of this technology. If you've got something like that, you can bring it to them, and you'll be on camera 24 hours a day, and it'll be live streamed over the internet. So you can do your research in public, and nobody can come and steal your stuff, because it's said that all of this technology still exists. It's out there. People have it, but people are too scared to actually come forward because they're worried something's going to happen to them, because the precedent has been set from that perspective. But equally, they all want to monetize it, because everybody thinks that they can make money out of this, right? So here's a way that you can do that, and here's a way that you can do it safely, and you're not going to be wiped off the face of the earth by some black ops for no particular reason. So when you watch that movie, you'll be convinced that all of this technology exists. But equally, when you watch one episode of Ancient Aliens from season 4, you'll think aliens are here as well. So you got to be careful of the narratives that have been drawn and what you've been pulled into. That's right.
That's why, you know, no more circumstantial evidence. Give me the real stuff. You know, now this
they would say there's so much evidence. What are you talking about? Look, here's the footage. I think there's even the video, the movie that he created before the last one. And I've watched all of his movies. It says that, you know, he's sitting in a chair in a warehouse, and, you know, they're filming, and someone says, well, show me the evidence. He goes, well, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence. Play the tape, right? And they play the tape, and there's just footage after footage after footage after footage. But that's not up close and personal.
No.
You know, I can't see this alien spacecraft. All I can see is like a white dot on the horizon. Often I'll lie in bed. First thing in the morning, my alarm goes off. I just lie there for a minute or two before I get up, and I can kind of look out the window, and I can see a white light tracking past my window. I'm like, it's not an alien spacecraft, man. It's an airplane in the pattern getting ready to line up and land. Like, but it's a white light in the sky. If I put my phone up and go, I saw a UFO. No, you didn't, you dickhead. You saw a plane. That's the anti-collision light. Like,
okay, so this week, this is the last bite at the apple for the year to get to the bottom of this, because after this week, August is going to recess now for the year, right? So this is the last opportunity they're going to have to get these guys substantially on record, actual whistleblowers. So these whistleblowers, apparently, the ones I only really know about for sure, I'm sure there are more, but the ones that I know about are a few pilots, Navy pilots, who are going to give their firsthand accounts. Okay, and I'm sure they're going to come off credible, you know, but still, it's just going to be storytelling without actual, you know, evidence.
That's the problem, isn't it? Like, they're credible people, you know, and anybody that has an encounter is a credible person. So
and that's the thing about conspiracy theories, right? Is very often, sometimes they are Looney Tunes and they just come off as Looney Tunes, but sometimes they're very credible people. They believe what they're saying. They believe what they saw with their own eyes or whatever. And so when someone is a credible person, like a Navy pilot, and they believe in what they saw, you want to give some weight to what they're saying, right? You know, but that's not actual evidence. That's hearsay. So now, who knows? Maybe this week we'll get a supply whistleblower that they've been keeping under wraps for the big surprise, the big shocker. If I were them, that's the way I would do it. Is I would sandbag, you know, the real guy until like the third or fourth day. You know, that's what I would do. Right. You have more impact, right? So but I'm a skeptic. it'd be cool, but you know, I grew up with Star Trek, the original Star Trek. So for me, yeah, it'd be cool, but
we'll see. We'll see.
yeah, we'll see.
All right, we've got one more video to show. Is that what that video is there? Let's play
No,
that.
that's my response video to your protest.
Oh, that's my okay. I won't play that one there.
I did a quick response video.
Oh, good one, good one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the show today. Don't forget, we're available as a podcast over on Spotify and Apple. Thank you for your support there. We're rising up through the ranks and doing pretty well across a bunch of different charts in different countries. I saw we were as high as number 25 in India last week. And these things go up and down. They modulate, of course. But thank you so much for your support on the podcast. Don't forget to come on over to Telegram and follow us over there. I post a couple of times a day over there on a variety of different topics related to the unspoken truth. So just scroll down and the link will be in the description. And I'll put the link to that Up Max News article in there as well. So you can have a look and read a little bit of sci-fi fantasy for yourself, and I'll let you decide for yourself. All right, let's get out of here. Thanks, Ed. We'll see you in the next one. It's bye for now.
All right, bye.